Hello, friends. Welcome once again to the Perfect Bound Podcast. This is a podcast all about anything and everything comic books and comics related, brought to you by the Panel Jumper. My name is Ben. With me, as always, is Cole Hornaday. Hey, Cole.
Hey.
Nicole Lamb.
Hello.
And, of course, Chris Casso. How is everybody this fine evening?
Good.
Conscious.
It's been a weird week.
Yes.
Like housewife extraordinaire today. I like baked bread, made homemade hummus, made a homemade soup, then cleaned everything, which is a lot of work.
Something I need to do. I was having this conversation with a friend of mine. There are two different types of clean. There's clean, but not tidy. And there's tidy, but not clean. I fall into that camp. My apartment is very orderly, but I should probably clean the toilet.
Yeah, little dusty, dirty.
Well, I think, Ben, you left off the third category, which is scoured.
Scoured.
Yeah. Every once in a blue moon, I will scour. And then,
yeah.
And then understand and then realize that there's a reason why I don't do this. I want to have a life. I want to have my peace of mind. Because you will never be able to go back to the scoured, scorched earth of cleanliness that you made your bathroom in the course of 3 hours. That's going to, because who has that kind of time in a day? But yeah.
And then like 3 months go by and you're like, I just cleaned this.
Well, exactly. I actually moved my oven and cleaned under it when I first became unemployed. And I won't do that for another 6 to 8 years. So
yeah.
Have you gotten to the point, I don't know if your oven does this, where you actually lift the top of the oven up and clean all the bits that have fallen underneath the burners?
I used to do that when I had an oven like that, yeah.
See, at this point, I've just named the dust because it is now part of the apartment. I'm in like the basement level of the apartment complex, so it's naturally dusty. And there's just a certain point that's just like, you're just going to come back like in, 2 hours at this rate.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dusting is a nightmare. I mean, with all the figures we have,
yes,
and they're all over the apartment, we have to move every figure, dust, and then do it in like a week. It's like,
Can't imagine.
It's Sisyphean.
It's tough having a nerd kingdom.
Welcome to the cleaning podcast.
Exactly.
Yes, let's talk about techniques and cleaning supplies.
I like simple green. I do actually.
I use paintbrushes to get dust off of toys.
Yes, I do that too.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's actually really fun when I dust my Batwoman because I also have a crush on her and I have to clean everywhere. So.
Yeah. Every nook and cranny. Yeah.
That's right.
Every nook and cranny. Well, speaking of nooks and crannies, there's been a big call from Marvel to retire the Punisher logo. We talked about this last time about how Jerry Conway was trying to reappropriate because a lot of the wrong people are lashing onto it, but now a larger public call is coming to Marvel to get to either retire the logo and or the character. And so far, no word from Marvel.
Well, okay, so this is very similar to the Pepe the Frog thing, where that was an indie comic about a bunch of stoner friends hanging out called Boys Club or whatever, and then it was appropriated by right-wingers on the internet, and it just kind of became its own thing, right? A meme, And this is the same thing where it's like whether or not people have read Punisher comics who are wearing these things, or if they still read Punisher comics, I think it's beyond its own thing. It's been appropriated into something else because this whole article can just be stripped down to Garth Ennis and Jerry Conway. Like Garth Ennis being like, they're idiots, it doesn't matter. And Jerry Conway being like, that's not what the character is, and that's pretty much it. They're just going to do what they're going to do. It's been appropriated already. There's
a funny part in that article where the writer is just like, they should just redesign the character. And it's just like, yeah, we've seen how that works.
No, I don't agree.
No,
Castle.
Well, yeah, Frankencastle.
Okay, well, yes. Touche.
Or like the terrible armor phase or some crap like that. But it's just one of those things, like the best approach, if they feel the need to just put them on the shelf for a while, which I think is actually an acceptable. Vacations are nice. Frank needs a vacation sometimes. But if they don't necessarily have to give Frank the vacation, maybe just a symbol. And most of the Garth Ennis run, like you barely see the symbol in the Max run. He's got the trench coat. You can kind of see there it is, but half the other times he's getting beaten so badly you never see the skull. And so it's more about Frank than it is about the symbol. And it's just like he could just change the way you're telling the stories to that degree.
Exactly.
And ride this out until something, the air clears a bit.
Yeah, because there's a tremendous hue and cry in the chats. Yes, I made the mistake. I read the chats.
Ooh.
And there was a lot of whataboutism. Like, well, when I watched the riots and at the Capitol, I also saw a lot of Ohio State University logos too. So what does that mean? I'm like, well, that's not even fair part of the discussion. I'm all for like either pulling it back or retiring the image, because otherwise you get into this. Well, what about this? Or what about that? And it starts to resonate for me. It's a very similar argument as back in the late 80s and 90s when people were getting bent out of shape about the expectation of political correctness. It's like,
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting distracted here.
So I mean,
Wow.
If you're listening to this on the podcast stream, you'll know that we actually record these too, and it's on our YouTube channel. And Cole's cat just interrupted Cole's train of thought, which I'm probably sure isn't the first time that's ever happened.
No.
What I appreciate though is that butt was going to go right in your face, and you just like pulled that tail down so tight, like a lid. You were like, "Not today, but not today."
Not today.
We've been video collaborators since the dawn of the pandemic, so Mr. has his OnlyFans.
So completing the
Cats
thought,
should have their own OnlyFans. That would make money.
only cats. Completing
cats.
the thought on Frank Castle. I know the TV show is kind of like, I'm not quite sure what the status of it is. Is The Punisher still actively being published right now?
I can't recall. I breeze through Marvel previews really fast now.
No,
I don't work for a store.
I don't think there's a current run at the moment because they had like a mini series after the War of the Realms, where he like wore a Viking's helmet and killed Norse demons and stuff like that. And because I haven't been doing the order forms, I haven't noticed any Punisher in the catalog. So it feels like he's already kind of on a little vacation at the moment. There was something about the run that Declan Shalvey was doing that basically didn't get to finish. Like they're going to release it as a graphic novel or trade paperback, but I think it was the Punisher versus the Barracuda Run or something like that. And Marvel was just like, we're just gonna, because this was during the pandemic anyway, the start of the pandemic, and everything was delayed. And I think they just kind of swept that one under the carpet. They're just like, nah, we'll worry about you later. You'll get printed. And they still have plans to release at least 2 or 3 different reprint trade paperbacks, like an Epic Edition and something else, including the Punisher Barracuda. So it's just like, no, they're not completely, putting them down, but.
Yeah, the Punisher Presents Barracuda Max new printing was offered last January, and then I don't see anything really on the horizon besides Dynamic Forces things, which are just variant grabs, and a Welcome Back Frank hardcover that will be out in March. So just a reprint.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right on. A couple of notable passings. Steve Lightle, who artist on Doom Patrol and Classic Legion of Superheroes, died at the age of 61.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was one of those guys that he was sort of everywhere during like the mid 90s, early 90s for me when I was, growing up and getting into comics. Along with the likes of like Paul Ryan and like Alex Saviuk, I butchered that one. But the Lytle's like Doom Patrol, short bit. He did a little bit of Flash, just kind of a little bit of everything. So it's with him and Paul Ryan passed away as well. It's just kind of like, oh, these guys are disappearing.
I was very fond of his artwork. Someone encouraged me in the mid 90s to I met someone who was like one of these Legion of Superheroes Uber fans.
Yeah.
And that was like that was a really unique subculture where the super fans of Legion, and you know, I remember the first time, down boy, down.
Sure.
And I remember going to like one of my first big comic book conventions, and there were indeed a mass of all these Legion of Superheroes fans all dressed in the costumes, and like it's like you could have a whole cosplay club and be the Legion of Superheroes. And I got really caught up in that, and as a result became a fan of Lightle's artwork. So I followed him there for a while because he was my point of entry into that culture, his artwork.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I thought he was marvelous. I was very fond of him.
Yeah.
Also, a familiar face at San Diego Comic-Con, a wife of Ninja Turtles co-creator Kevin Eastman, and a character in her own right in Heavy Metal magazine, Julie Strain, has also passed away. Now, Chris, you brought this up before the show. I have actually never heard of her before today.
She was very common just for me to see because of all the heavy metal connection points, and you know, working the store and everything. And I saw the post on pop up on Instagram like just a couple hours after she passed away, and it was just a little odd because I didn't realize how old she was, and it was such an odd listening because they mentioned she passed away due to dementia. And I didn't realize that she suffered that, they think, due to she fell off a horse when she was young.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was just kind of like, damn, okay. And also she had apparently been claimed dead the year prior. It's almost been an exact year in time. So like there's just a lot of odd surprises with this news.
What was her biography called? Was it like 6'2" and worth the climb? It was something like that.
That sounds familiar.
That's
An
awesome.
Amazonian scaled lady. And I just when she married Kevin Eastman, I'm like, dude, you are living the nerd dream. You're a multimillionaire, creator of these, you know, these multi-millionaire properties. Now you're publishing heavy metal, and you married a heavy metal model, and she's also in the Heavy Metal Fact 2 animated film, the sequel to the original Heavy Metal. That was actually, I believe, if I recall correctly, was kind of a vehicle for her. Yeah, but she was mostly just a really amazingly tall and extraordinary looking lady that graced a lot of covers of a lot of pulp novels and posters. And
she was in a lot of bad movies, but like purposefully.
But I think that's something that exactly, something that she took pride in. I think I actually picked up Scream Queens magazine a couple of times, and there was always an article or interview with her between the covers as well.
Yeah.
She had a book published in 1997 called "It's Only Art If It's Well Hung."
Yeah.
Yeah, there was like a quote on Bleeding Cool that said like, "I am the chick they call when they want a gun-toting Amazon bitch, Barbarella, merciless bitch, lots of bitch, with machine gun. Vampires, witches, sorceresses, double agents, that's what I do. And I like to headbutt peep fights and kick them and spit on them and bust them in the gonads."
What I love is also like looking through her roles on the filmography, just like Dominatrix, Annihilator Girl, Queen, Murderess, Black Widow. You know, it's just like, I see a theme here.
There's a pattern. Yeah.
The Temptress, the Bear Wench, stripper herself. So there's
played by herself.
Yeah. She did the Bear Wench a couple of times. Oh, it's the Bear Wench Project. Okay, that's and Amazon's. So yeah.
Oh, I got the internship. Where? At Bear Wench. I'm Bear Wench.
All right. Moving on. There was a special live stream event that Lucasfilm produced where they talked about a bunch of new titles for its publishing initiative, and it was called Star Wars: The High Republic, and it's a new era of Star Wars storytelling. I've heard some feedback from this, But what do y'all think about these new titles?
I'm just not a Star Wars person.
Yeah.
It was fun. I have a friend who picked up the comics, the Soul. How do y'all pronounce his last
Carl
name?
Soule. I asked him directly.
So I'm looking to you. Friend of mine read the comics introduction and is really digging them. And I am considering picking him up because I think Soule was one of the better Star Wars title writers in the last couple of years. I felt like you get the tone, you get what this is about. You're not trying to break any rules, but you are lifting up the things that you are illuminating the things in the mythology that I like. So I'm digging it. So I watched the trailer and I'm like, it looks like a lot of fun things here. Multicultural group of people. It's also a real safe space in the early days of the Jedi. And you know, there's a lot of things that have yet to be explored. Well, I kind of take that back because Dark Horse did explore a lot of that stuff in the 90s. But hey, it's not canon anymore, so it doesn't count.
Right.
Yeah. So they're building all that stuff back up in their own way. And may pick and choose things. Who knows?
A lot of it looks like it'll appeal more to younger audiences, which is good.
For sure, yeah.
That's what it feels like looking at the pictures.
There is a character's name who is Ram Jamaram. And it's just like, there we go.
Yeah,
Terrible
you gotta have
name.
those Star Wars names, man.
Ram Jamaram.
Ram Jamaram.
Cool.
Yeah.
Vegas has odds that Giancarlo Esposito, I learned how to say his name correctly. Giancarlo Esposito is to play Doctor Doom in the announced new Fantastic Four movie. Now, come on, another Fantastic Four movie is the world ready for some more disappointment. But if they have Giancarlo, maybe it might be good.
See, I've been wishing and hoping and dreaming that it's going to be Mads Mikkelsen. That's my perfect Doctor Doom right now.
I could see that. A lot of the things that they say in the article for different actors, it's like someone might look good, but probably wouldn't have the acting. Because like Doom is one of those things. He's over the top. He's so theatrical, but you still need to get this like seriousness and believe that he really truly is 100% in everything that he does. You know what I mean?
But you also want somebody who's very subtly unhinged looking and creepy and has a little Hannibal in them. And I love me some Mads. So I like Giancarlo. Ever since I saw him in Breaking Bad, it's just kind of like, I do love this man.
He's built a career out of playing the villain, so
yeah,
I think that's why he's tops in the Vegas odds.
I do want to set aside that article and come back to it in a year or two when the next wave of the casting of the next wave of Marvel movies starts rolling and see how close their speculation was. I think that'd be really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, other names up for grabs are Cillian Murphy, Michael Fassbender, Viggo Mortensen, Christoph Waltz, Nikolai Coster-Waldau from Game of Thrones, and Wes Bentley from, I think I only know him from American Beauty.
Yeah, the guy from Game of Thrones isn't a bad choice, and Viggo's good.
Viggo's too old though.
He's getting up there, yeah. So the Game of Thrones guy's good. It's probably the best on that list for me, actually. Now I think of it, because he has that innate handsome man who probably is very insecure and will kill you if something bad happens to his face feeling. So like that's prime Doctor Doom right there, you know. So yeah.
Odds on who's going to play Mr. Fantastic was John Krasinski, who's a really popular action actor these days.
I love that idea right here. So
John David Washington, who is currently in Tenet, which you can like stream now, or he was the lead in Black Klansman, which is a very good movie if you haven't seen it. He's also Denzel Washington's son, so that's a fun little fact. Glenn Howerton from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia for some reason.
I guess because he kind of looks like a weirdo version of Reed.
Yeah,
I actually did always like Horatio Hornblower or whatever his name is. I thought he was okay. It's unfortunate that the movie was that movie, but I thought he was okay.
Yeah.
One of the names to play the Thing is Dean Norris from Breaking Bad, who played Walt's brother-in-law, which I think, if you're looking for somebody who's kind of already Michael Chiklis, then it's Dean Norris.
Yeah.
Just like a stocky barrel-chested bald guy.
Yeah.
And
he's in Starship Troopers, and it's just there's so many people in Starship Troopers that you don't realize it until you like really rewatch that film. And because one of the Golden Girls is that like blind mad scientist in there, but but the guy from Breaking Bad, what's that?
Rue McClanahan.
Yes. But the guy from Breaking Bad just has that one quick scene where he's just like, oh, that, you're going in for the service? That's great. And he's missing like 3 limbs. And he's just kind of like, service.
Made me the man I am today.
Yeah.
Not to leave her out of it, but John Krasinski's wife, Emily Blunt, is leading the Vegas odds to play Sue Storm. There's also Alice Eve and Rose McIver. I don't know who Rose McIver is. I had to look up
every single one of these women. I have no idea.
Alice Eve was in one of the new Star Trek movies. That's the only thing I know her from.
I saved no space for celebrities. I had to pretty much look up everybody on this list.
I devote too much hard drive space up here for celebrities and who they've played.
What I need people to start thinking about is who's going to play Blue Marvel, because then we'll have our ultimates, and that's all I need in this world.
And Rose McIver was the gal that played Liv in the iZombie TV series.
And you just happen to have a copy of her right there.
And I kind of have her action figure.
All right. Well, that's possibly your new Sue Storm in this announced but yet to be cast Fantastic Four.
I'm sort of in support of that idea. So we'll just hold that. Can you just all hold that space for me, please?
Idris Elba is the Blue Marvel.
I kind of like the Tenant guy, actually.
Oh, okay, yeah.
John David Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm also not opposed to, having different actors of different races play the family too. Like, I know they tried to do that with Sue and Johnny.
Yeah.
In that last movie that I'll probably never see, just like Green Lantern, I'll never see.
Fantastic Four stick. Yeah.
The thing is I really like Chris Evans as Johnny, but unfortunately, he's America's ass. So.
He is and he's coming back apparently as America's ass. I just read today that he's in talks to come back as Captain America.
I think we could just go ahead and start recasting people, because that's how we're going to get Mads Mikkelsen, because he already died in Doctor Strange. But because we have multiverse stuff on the way with the in the Mouth of Madness or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Not Mouth Madness, Mountains of Mad, whatever they're doing.
In Doctor the Mads Strange. Of Mikkelsen.
The multiverse of madness. Yes, Mads of Mikkelsen. Because it would be great if, the same actor shows up, but they're, 2 people in the same movie, and they're just like, what? Because I think there's a weird scene in, they did that Crisis on Infinite Earth for TV, and one of their Lex Luthors showed up on the Smallville universe, and he's just like, I'm Lex Luthor. And Smallville, Tom Wellings is just like, are you? This is weird, because I don't get how people can be so different, but okay, So it's just fine to go ahead and have the same person show up with a different name, and they just be like, okay, whatever.
It's true, though. We need to spread our actor love out there. Give other people a chance too, or not. Just
I'd rather be happy with 2 Mads Mikkelsens. Okay.
Alrighty.
Mads world.
It's a Mads world. A comic, indeed, a comic that I was disheartened to hear that has been being put on indefinite hiatus is Ascender, the follow-up to Descender. I enjoyed the first trailer. I was looking to pick up some more, but I hear that due to some emergencies, which is not completely unreasonable in this day and age, that the final few issues of Ascender might not be happening.
Choose an emergency. Yeah, it's
like spin a wheel of personal crisis and then just pick one just for the week.
I think they said that they are expecting to get it out. A lot of it is already finished, but there's just going to be the delay as they're working through the family problems or emergency problems or whatever it is. Yeah. So Yep.
Which, you know, I get, and I can sympathize with, because Lord knows in my job, if I get sick and delay something, I'm not going to have, you know, a ton of fans, you know, an entire fan base out there being disappointed, you know. So
It's Image Comics. They're used to disappointment. I mean, Saga should have come back 2 years ago. So
They were
everybody,
working on it all of 2020. What could have possibly happened last year?
yeah. So it's just like, yeah, it's Image. Just be patient.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
Alrighty. And finally today, Rob Salkowitz wrote in Publisher Wiki that DC Comics is leaving its legacy behind. Basically, that it has to do with a bunch of financial decisions. But do we feel that DC is in danger of losing its past? Like, do they care enough as much as the fans do?
That's the trouble of whether if there's enough of an editorial department left to care,
Right.
And that AT&T isn't just like digging them, you know, making them a hollow IP gold mine is one of the words used. Yeah, it's kind of tough because I mean, like, I haven't read the current event, the death metal stuff, but I've seen some spoilers as to what, you know, it's unveiling, and it sounds like they're kind of getting back to the idea of some of their older legacy, but it's just too tough to tell how much, if they can correct the ship versus, you know, how deep they already are. Yeah.
This article that Salkowitz wrote was really interesting to me because I realized about halfway in, when we're discussing legacy, are we talking about the history, the rich history of the IP? Or are we talking about the legacy of the production staff of the last couple of years? Because he was talking a lot about the layoffs and things like that. And that was an aspect of legacy too, of the publishing house and the cultural knowledge.
A loss of that institutional knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere there's like over 125 years of just knowledge lost, you know.
And that's, I mean, I consider that to be tragic. And, you know, that's what you lose when you purge due to financial constraints or, you know, shipping money, or that's legacy you lose.
Yeah. I know. I kind of want to say that there's an old adage that says no good art has ever come out of bringing the budget down. But I work in fringe theater, so that's not exactly true.
But side note there, Ben, is that in fringe theater, it's a foregone conclusion that we will create under the constraints, and that's our vision for art.
Yeah.
Another thing, when someone has a huge sandbox and you start kicking people out, and you have a wealth of resources, and you start trimming them back or kicking people out or whatever. I'm sorry, Nicole, what were you going to say?
Well, it just depends on like who you're kicking out, you know, like if you're keeping all those people who are making really terrible decisions way higher up, and you don't have people like who are kind of holding down the ship and like the creative path, then yeah, you're just going to strip stuff down, and it's just, you clearly don't care. I mean, whoever's running their movie stuff is doing a terrible job and needs to find another job, you know? So it's like, if you're going to be doing some silliness with the comics and you're losing all these people who have a wealth of knowledge, a lot of writers that we like, you know, for instance, are people who bring in older stuff and do something new and interesting with it, or make things count or something like that. Like, I'm reading JLA Grant Morrison, and Morrison loves bringing in all kinds of stuff. And so, you know, it just depends on who you're keeping is really what it comes down to. Because like you said, in fringe theater, you know, you have people who are there like creating, you know, they're there because they want to be there and they want to make something amazing out of very little, right? And it's just, you're going to hollow it out, and then we're all going to be bored. And I'm not really reading DC anyway. Actually, I'm reading old DC because I'm trying to throw DC a bone here because they keep disappointing me constantly. And I don't want to give up on you, DC.
Well, here's another bone for you, Nicole. I think the Harley Quinn animated series is outrageous, and I am fascinated by it because I really should hate it because it violates all this stuff I've been clutching my pearls over for years, and I'm like, no, this is some really outrageous and vital interior satire. What do I say? It's self-satirical at some point.
Yeah.
And that revitalizes, that actually made me care about a lot of these characters. It's like you're poking fun, and yet there are moments of like really harsh seriousness.
Yeah.
This is really kind of exciting.
It's good writing.
Actual empathy and
writing. It's
scripting.
Fun. It's rude, but it's
Is it truly outrageous?
It is. It's turned up to
outrageous.
11, and it never, ever, ever turns it down.
It's like the Aquaman from Brave and the Bold who would always be like, outrageous.
And then break out in song.
Yeah, then break out in song.
how about I told you the tape? Yeah.
That's
such a
beautifully
blowhard,
done.
you know?
It's got a heck of a cast. I mean, Kaylee Cuoco as Harley Quinn, Alan Tudyk as Clayface,
Yeah.
Ron Funches, who is a stand-up who has performed in this very room at NX Theater, plays King Shark. Tony Hale from Arrested Development and Veep, Jason Alexander. Man, it's
Great cast. Yeah.
it's super easy to do voiceover work because the producers just send you a microphone and you record your stuff in your closet and you're done. In this day of
the writing is equally outrageous and unpredictable.
But it's clever. That's what really sells it. Because there are moments where it does certain things where I'm like, it makes me feel weird about the moral and ethical elements of it, but I'm just kind of like, yeah, but also you just did some great Sharkman jokes, so it's okay, you know.
And it bends rules, but to my mind doesn't break them. I mean, the depiction of Batman and the depiction of Jim Gordon are kind of douchey, you know.
Yeah.
But
Jim Gordon, man.
you know, but at the same time,
It's rough being Jim Gordon.
I still like these characters, and I may actually go back to reading a Batman comic at some point and go, you know, this cartoon showed me a new side here that is now kind of informing how I read this character, and that's not a bad thing.
Right.
And I, you know, but it's self-satirical, which is something that we are seeing more of now. Hold on to your idea, Chris. I'll just a quick point. There's something we're seeing more of now, also with like Paramount's Star Trek send-up called The Lower Decks, which is a very similar kind of thing, where I was like, wow, man, 20 years ago, this was sacred earth. You did not dare tread on this sacred earth. And now it's like, oh, you're teaching me new stuff about this really, really tired franchise. And I'm kind of digging it. So anyway, go ahead, buddy.
I was just going to say, like you said, reading some of the books and now having this iteration of them in your head, I'm always going to be reading Bane as this version of Bane, not just for the voice, but just for his random, like, I like this Bane as a person.
Yes.
I feel bad for him all the time because he just wants friends.
The whole holistic, turning the pit into this holistic prison, you know, and having support groups and stuff like that, which Ivy and Harley have no interest in participating in, and it's breaking Bane's heart that they don't want to do this.
Yeah,
you know, it's just gold.
All right, you sold me. I'm gonna watch this cartoon. Is it on Netflix? How do I see it?
It's on HBO Max.
Yeah.
Oh, great. I have that.
Yeah.
Let's move on to book report, everybody. And Cole Hornaday, what do you want to tell us about?
Well, the book I'm going to review is kind of part of a bigger project because, hey, it's Cole Hornaday, right? So a couple weeks ago, I finally finished reading this wonderfully epic tome published by Fantagraphics back in 2015 called The Eternaut by Hector Germain Esterheld and Francisco Solano Lopez. It was originally serialized in I don't have it with me. It's a giant tome. It weighs probably about 45 pounds and it's 360 pages and it's gorgeous, but it was originally serialized in a newspaper in Argentina in the 50s, and it tells this very interesting, thinly veiled allegory for totalitarian militaristic regime that was currently in control of Argentina at the time. The story reads like this wonderfully pulpy H.G. Wells inspired science fiction story where aliens come to Earth and they create a toxic snowfall that kills everybody but a handful of people who figure out how to make little environmental suits and stay alive and then join this militia to fight these aliens. The aliens are really brilliant because we never know who's running the show. And there's several different levels of organization of different aliens that have all been enslaved to, systematically take over different planets throughout the system. That's the Eternaut, the original one. And that comic book apparently was an institution, that strip rather was an institution in and of itself and has been republished and rebooted several times. So I sadly could never afford to get my hands on the big print tome when it's long out of print. And when the Eternaut was published in 2015, it was a $50 book, and now you can't find it for less than $300. But I was very excited to learn that they did that. Esther Held and Alberto Breccia, another artist who's very famous in his own right, in '69 attempted to do a reboot, and this is the different version. A much more truncated version called Mr. You're gonna have to be down in front. Down in front, buddy. There you go. This is a wildly different interpretation of the same story, and obviously it's much thinner. But and what's frustrating is that in reading the background of the story, you learn that they really didn't have a chance to get this off the ground because by this point in time, the junta is really in control of Argentina. And even the readership that were once big fans of these artists' work were slipping away and withdrawing and not buying the newspapers that they were being published in. This version of the Eternaut is really fascinating and really beautiful. And I do recommend it for Breccia's artwork alone. Sadly, in reading this, you're not going to be able to appreciate half the magnitude of what the story originally had to offer unless you read the big tome, hence my opening comment about I've been doing this project. So this is kind of like a sad, paler version of the original epic. And if you can ever get your hands on the original epic, go for it. If you find it used, if you find it like, someone bequeaths it to you, hold on to it with all your life because it's really, really a tremendous piece of work. This I don't know that if it ever had a chance to be anything other than a pale, to be a pale afterthought of the original. This Fantagraph that's just published in hardbound this year, but it was originally published in 1969. Sadly, Breccia escaped to, I believe, France or Spain in the 70s to get away from the political upheaval in the dirty war that lasted, I think, close to a decade in Argentina. Esther Held and his 4 daughters were disappeared in 1978. They were gone. The 4 daughters were political dissidents. They all took part in publishing his newspaper, and the government made them go away. And we don't know whatever came of them. So I think about those things when I was reading both these books. Like, okay, you can't really be persnickety about something that someone created from the bottom of their soul and ultimately died as a result. So, wow. Yeah, it's a hard call. It's like, I want everybody to read these books. I think now more than ever, I want them to read all these books. I wish it was easier for y'all to find them.
Is this maybe a future panel jumper?
Sure, Chris.
Add it to the list.
Yeah, add it to the list. Okay.
Only because I'm that passionate about telling the story behind the story. Yeah.
Panel jumper 2030.
Yeah.
All right. The Eternaut. Thank you, Cole Horner.
You're welcome.
Nicole, what do you got for us?
Well, I mentioned I was reading JLA by Grant Morrison, and I think it was after watching Wonder Woman 1984. I told Chris that I wanted to finally read some DC Grant Morrison stuff. Like I wanted to read the Batman and Son, his run there. And then, of course, it was like a chain of text, between the two of us on Facebook Messenger, just being like, oh, read this, and here's the reading list, and there's that thing, which is good, but it's also a lot of work. And I know that I stall out. Like I get a good running start, and then I just kind of peter off. So I want to keep it going, I have been reading. I read the first volume, which is on Hoopla, and I don't remember like what this current printing is, what this printing was. It says 2017, so whatever printing that is and whatever that includes. It does go through the Hyper Clan. Wait, I already forgot what
Yeah.
they're called.
The Hyper Clan, and I think you said it got the Key story, the one that had
Yes.
Green Arrow in it.
Yes.
So
They
So
do
it.
White Martian stuff too.
yeah, that's the Hyper Clan.
Martian stories. Yeah.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm. So a couple things that it could have derailed me. First, it's like some like 90s art, which, and everybody like character design and names are kind of like, I'm never going to remember you. And you're kind of a mess to look at. And at some point, Superman becomes blue and electric because, that happened.
Mhm.
And, a bunch of other things where it just seems disjointed story-wise because other things were happening at the time and they just assumed you were probably reading everything to get it. Even through all of those things, it kept me engaged and I kept finding myself wanting to read, like, by the glow of the Kindle
Mhm.
or reading on Hoopla. And so that is really telling because it was all over the place and I wouldn't really recommend it for somebody who is not used to that kind of stuff with superhero or knows that going into it, because it'll just be like, what am I reading? But that just is a testament to how good Grant Morrison is at storytelling. And you get great Batman stuff of him just like and like hunched over and looking like an actual bat and like knowing everything, and him being there an hour ahead of time in the shadows while the JLA is like, where's Batman? He's late again. And they're like, and then he's like, no, I'm here and I have a plan and I've already figured it all out. And you're just like, okay, all right, Batman, cool.
Well, and one of my favorite moments too, where he's the so each of the Hyper Clan villains, they're spoilers, white Martians, which each a white Martian is stronger than Superman, and everybody barely kind of beats one by the end, but Batman beats like 3 on his own.
Yeah.
And it's just this great scene where he just figured out how to take them out, and he took a lot of joy in beating them.
Absolutely.
And this run of JLA was my introduction to DC Comics. So there's always a bit of joy when I can get people into it and talk to them about it and see how they liked it.
Yeah.
It's the run that brought me back to JLA because I was about, I loved the 80s stuff that was so parodic, but this, and I don't think I was really that into Morrison until I read this stuff. I'd been shied away from Animal Man and his other Vertigo stuff, and I was like, wow, this guy loves superheroes.
Yeah.
He loves them. And he's, I love that run. I have very fond memories of his run on JLA.
There's just crazy ideas, and
Yeah.
like you said, Nicole, bringing back old ideas and villains, because like that villain, the Key, is a loser from the 60s. He's just a guy with a weird key shaped helmet and a key gun, and they beat his ass all the time. And so he comes back and he's all like creepy and messed up, and he's got a new gimmick about unlocking the mines and stuff like that. And it's just like, pretty soon you're gonna get the Shaggy Man, and I love the fact that he reimagined the Shaggy Man. Shaggy Man's just a Bigfoot, but they turn him into a viable threat with an interesting backstory and everything else, and it's just kind of like, you did that with Shaggy Man.
Look, I'm rewatching or watching all of the Batman 66 TV show like pretty slowly because I bought the box set for my husband, and we just got through The Archer, which is pretty much just Robin Hood.
Yeah.
And so that was the time, that was what they do. But it's when writers take that stuff and say, but what if? And that makes really interesting storytelling, very compelling, and still giving a little nod of the hat to who came before you. So I like that.
And did your version have the war with heaven?
That doesn't sound familiar, no.
That's next for you, so have fun.
I gotta get through the rest of Grant Morrison, Batman and Son, and Black Glove. I'm reading it combined. So once I do that, then I'll jump in JLA 2, and I'm kind of doing that. And then JSA will get thrown in there and stir it all up.
Alrighty. Grant Morrison's JLA. Thank you, Nicole. And finally, Chris Casso, what do you got?
The book that I love so much, I have to review it a third time. So will it show with my background?
Yes.
Kind of, yeah.
Sort of.
Anyway, this is Dwellings by Jay Stevens. Jay Stevens is a creator who has been out of the comic industry for about almost 20 years. He moved into animation, and he used to do the comics, the Jet Cat Clubhouse, The Land of Nod, a couple other things here and there, Atomic City Tales, all stuff I loved. He had a really cartoony style, but he would tell kind of subtly disturbing elements with those. His animation work is more kid friendly in general. There is a Jet Cat cartoon, and it does not do the creepy things that Jet Cat did in the comics at times. So he decided to come back, and he did a Kickstarter. And basically, the Dwellings comics are a mashup of EC comic stories with Harvey Comics aesthetics. So like your Richie Rich and your Casper style. But the actual plotting, the storytelling is very much feels like an EC Tales from the Crypt horror comic. And so you have that great mix mash of styles. And this first issue is basically following a kid who he's in what do you call it when the FBI hides you from the mafia?
Witness protection?
Witness protection. Thank you. What?
Disappeared. Sorry, made a bad medical joke. Never mind.
But a thug recognizes him and threatens him and his mother, and he beats the thug with a rock and kills him. And then the crows come and eat the corpse. And so the thing is, the crows keep following the kid, and he keeps trying to get rid of them and accidentally killing other people or things, and the crows keep feeding off the corpses. So he starts to have a mental break, and he thinks he is a crow. And it's just great because, he's killing people with scissors, and the crows are eating eyeballs out of corpses, but in that Harvey style. So I loved it. I think there will be more. It sounded like he's planning on doing a bunch, but there'll probably be Kickstarters for each issue. You can get them directly from the website of Black Eye Comics. It's not that pricey. I think for the digital copy, it's something like $4. For the print copy, it's $5.19 because they went with the Canadian price of $6.66. And it is well worth it if you get the chance. They also printed it like they're unglossed pages on the inside, and everything looks distressed. It has fake ads. The ads are great because there's like a exploding hand grenade. This hand grenade looks and works just like a real one. All you do is pull the pin, throw the grenade, and watch the fun as it explodes. Harmless. And sorry, but we cannot actually ship orders because nothing is real. Everything is a lie. You must know this. So tonally, it's just a lot of fun.
I'm glad you actually reviewed this again because it reminded me that I need to go out on the web and buy it because I was fascinated by your trusty henchman review, and I'm like, this sounds like a boatload of awesome. So you can get it as a floppy. It's not a perfect bound or anything like that.
Yep, you could just get it as a normal floppy.
So it leans all the way into being an old school 60s Harvey style comic book, but it's not. Okay. Yeah. That's really great.
So yeah. And then like the Kickstarter, I don't know, you might be able to get some of this stuff if you buy it directly, but the Kickstarter had like postcard of the variant cover, which is very EC style, and limited edition prints, which are nice, and even a poster that's about the return of Jay Stevens. So it's good stuff.
All right, that's really awesome.
Yeah, so if you ever see another Kickstarter on them, I mean, this one, I think the full package was like $8, and that's fine with me. For the quality, it is well worth it.
All right, I'm gonna go buy it. I thank you for reminding me I need to go buy it.
And hunt down old J. Stephen comics. They did some reprints of Land of Nod and Jetcat stuff not too long ago. I can't imagine you have to pay much money for Atomic City Tales because nobody knows what it is. But I need to go reread those. But I remember absolutely loving them at the time.
I think I have all those. Wasn't he adopting kind of a very Mike Allred style?
Yes.
I have all those.
It's very Mike Allred.
Oh, and I didn't get rid of them either.
Time for a rereading.
All right. Thanks.
That's
you
the thing. Every time I've had to over the past couple of years decide to like trim down and sell things, even though I haven't reread those Atomic City Tales, there's some part in my deep subconscious mind is like, no, you don't touch those. Leave those on the shelf. They are precious. So,
alrighty, dwellings. Thank you, Chris. And Cole, when you pick yours up, mind some of those fake ads for future Panel Jumper live phone call bits.
Absolutely, one more reason to spend my hard-earned shekels on that.
Indeed. All right. Well, thank you all. Well, that is Book Report. That is our show. The Perfect Bound podcast is brought to you by The Panel Jumper. See everything Cole Hornaday and I do at thepaneljumper.com. Send us an email, perfectboundpodcast@gmail.com. Subscribe to the show on iTunes or however you get your podcasts at perfectboundpodcast.com. Thank you again for listening, and go to the videos, go to our YouTube page at youtube.com/thepaneljumper and see Cole sword fighting with his cat Mr. right in front of the camera. Oh, looks like Mr. One. All right. Well, maybe we'll try to revitalize Cole for the next time on the Perfect Bound podcast. Thank you for listening.